Okay. If you haven't gotten a clicker yet, let me know. Does everybody have a clicker in the room? We have a couple. All right, yes. If you don't have a clicker. So you don't have a clicker. Okay. All right, so we have a couple more that are coming around the room. She's going to be passing them out. Thank you so much for coming, obviously. My name is Lauren Kovach. I'm from Turning Technologies. We are the clicker company, okay? And I'm just going to be going over a couple things with you today, just about student response systems, okay? Now, before we actually start using the clickers themselves, can anybody here tell me or raise your hand if you have actually used a clicker before in the past? Okay, so a good show of hands. That's about a third of the room. Okay, that's good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward here. I want to tell you a little bit about the company, and then I want to go ahead and I'm going to pass it off to a couple more folks that we have here as well to share experiences that they've had using our clickers. Okay. Now my advancer is not working. Here, let's do this. There we go. Okay. Turning Technologies is the industry leader of student response systems for interactive learning. And to be honest with you, more than half the colleges and universities in the United States actually use our clickers. More than half. That is a very large number. And I want to ask this silly question. Let me move this out of the way. To any of you, does this look familiar? Anybody? Look familiar? Show of hands, anybody? Yeah, a little bit? Okay. Maybe something like this? A little more familiar, huh? A little bit? Okay. Always get that deer in headlights look, you know? All right, so basically what I want to show you, instead of getting the deer in headlights look all the time, we want to actually engage students in the classroom, okay? Take it from a one-way street to a two-way interactive, okay? This is what we want to do. So, from an instructor's point of view, you would ask a question. The students would respond by using their clickers, which you all have right now, and immediately the results are displayed on the screen, okay? It's as easy as that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to ask the question here. So now, with your clickers, have you ever used clickers before? 1 is yes, 2 is no, 3 is a long time ago, and 4 is, you mean this is not a remote control? Go ahead and respond. All right, and as you can see too here up on the top right-hand corner, I can see the responses that are already coming in. That looks about right. I'm going to go ahead and stop my polling. Okay, so actually the majority of you have not used clickers before in the past. That's actually good. I love newbies. That's always fun. Okay, so none of you thought this was a remote control. Congratulations. Thank you for not thinking it was a remote control. All right, moving on. Okay, if you answered yes, how did you first hear about clickers? I use them in my classroom, at a conference, word of mouth, or today is my first time. Let me go ahead and open polling. Go ahead and respond now. As you can see, the response, if you respond, there we go. And actually, if you look on your clicker itself, as you're responding, there's a little tiny screen on the clicker itself. You'll actually be able to see your response as you're responding. And in case you maybe hit the wrong button, you can always change your answer anytime, okay? All right, let's go ahead and close polling. All right, let's see here. So we have a mixture, okay. 29% at a conference, all right. Some of you today, that makes sense. All right, moving on. I love this question. Thanks to Sharolyn. This is one of the funny questions. I love this one. It's actually kind of sad, though, at the same time. How far would you need to walk to burn off 10, count them 10, M&M chocolate candies? Is it, let me open polling. Is it number 1, 4 blocks, 2, the length of 10 football fields, 3, 1/2 mile, or 4, 1 lap around football field? I'll give you a hint. I was scared when I heard the results. All right, let's see what we have. All right, and you're incorrect. I can tell you that can I give them the answer? All right, I can tell you that 28% of you were correct. It is the length of 10 football fields. I don't know about you, but I'm going to think twice about having some M&Ms later tonight. All right, moving on. Okay, I just want to get a feel for the room too. I want to ask you, as far as in the classroom, what is your style of teaching? Do you use a computer and projector? Do you use PowerPoint? Do you not use PowerPoint? And the reason why I'm asking this, guys, is because everybody has a different style of teaching, okay? So go ahead and respond. I just kind of want to get a feel for the room. Okay, that's about right here. Wow, all right. So 77% use PowerPoint. And the reason why I ask that is because we also do have a PowerPoint, and although we're in PowerPoint right now, I'm actually not using our turning point integration because we have, I'm gonna just move forward here. There we go. We have multiple polling solutions for you, okay? So for example, the first one that you see here with the big A on it is turning point anywhere. And the key word in that is anywhere, because you can poll your students in any application. Whether you're using PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, PC or Mac computer, software is totally free. Anybody can download that right from our website, okay? And then we also do have the turning point integration, which most folks here at K-State are familiar with, which is our PowerPoint integration. But by using that turning point software, you're limited to just using PowerPoint, okay? That's why most users love our turning point anywhere software. And for those of you, does anybody just show of hands really quick? And actually, you know what? I don't have to do show of hands. I can just pull this really quickly. Does anybody not use a computer or a projector but would love to be able to get immediate feedback, maybe out in the field, things like that? Go ahead. 1 is yes, 2 is no. So if you answer yes, you do not use a computer or a projector. Wow, 56%. Okay. We also do have, and it's actually at the bottom right hand of the screen, it is our response card anywhere. Now, this little device acts as your computer and your projector and your receiver, because you need a receiver in order to talk to your clickers, okay? So, but this little guy, I actually know doctors who take interns around in a hospital and will poll their interns on the fly. It's fantastic, because you can't whip out a computer and a projector out of your back pocket, so why not carry this little handheld device? It's a fantastic tool. Actually, I know Larry won't buy a clicker system with that one, so. All right, moving on. These are some of the clickers that we have to offer here. Obviously, the one that you guys are using right now is the middle clicker, which is the RF LCD. And we also do have some other options, and one of our newest clickers is the NXT. I actually brought a couple with me here today, so if you're interested, please feel free to stop by if you would like to see it. It is our newest alphanumeric self-paced testing clicker, the NXT. And I don't know if it was a student or not, but I had a younger lady come by the table and she was like, this is too cool. Because you can actually text, like a cell phone style based texting mode to your instructor. So if you have a question and you want to just shoot out a question instead of raising your hand and not wanting to do it, and ask it and be embarrassed in front of your friends, you can do it anonymously, okay? We also do, for those of you who are probably wondering, for our responseware at the very bottom, you can use any web-enabled device. I knew I was going to do that at one point today. You can use your iPhone, you can use a computer, any web-enabled device as a clicker, okay? It's becoming the newest popular thing. If anybody's interested or has any questions, please feel free to see me at the booth. Can't miss us, bright orange table. Okay, moving on. So who is using turning technologies? And as I said before, more than half of the colleges, universities in the United States are using turning technologies. But just to give you a little list here are some of the schools, and the ones that are in bold are the ones that I personally work with myself. And just to give you an idea, here are some of the recent large-scale adopters, and large-scale standing for 3,000 plus devices on campus. Okay? If anybody has any questions or wants references or point of contacts, please let me know. I'd be happy to put you in contact. Okay. I just want to kind of end here on a really fun quote. I really like this by Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to Sharolyn. And really quick before that, I just want to let everybody know, in case we didn't do it already, but we do have a door prize. Our door prize is a 15-seat RF LCD system, which includes obviously 15 of the clickers, the receiver, which is this guy right here, and the case as well. Okay? Anybody have any questions? You guys are good? If not, I'm going to pass it on to Sharolyn. Good? Okay.
I was going to talk real briefly about how we've used the clickers in K-State Research and Extension. And my work is primarily off campus with a wide variety of ages, from youth through older adults. And so it's a little different than being in a formal classroom setting. I don't have any examples here today to really show you the kinds of questions other than one of those that was used earlier, just to really engage the audience, involve them. If anybody's getting a little sleepy, it seems to perk them up really quick when you have a question they can respond to. And their response is anonymous. And for particularly some of our adults, it can be intimidating if they have to raise their hand and they got the question wrong. So they really like the option of having that anonymous responding the system that allows them to do that, and they really like using the clickers. Other examples, I think that the clickers have been real helpful is if you're teaching a class, for example, on food safety with restaurant managers and they have to take a certification test, you can periodically see are they getting the information, are they understanding it, and to know if you need to go back and review something else, because you want them to pass that test and get the information that they need. So it's a good way to check to see if your audience is with you, if they're understanding, to do a pre and post test. And I think Doug is going to give an example of the pre and post test. And I haven't done any of the data collection like he has, and so that's why when they asked me to do this, I thought I'm going to call Doug and involve him, because I know he's been doing a lot of work using the clickers. And I just want to say right now we have some of the clickers a set available in all of our area extension offices, and they are gone all the time. So they're really being used out in communities. People are getting used to them, and they really like having that interactive tool to enhance both the teacher, the agents, and the participants as well. So.
I'm Doug Jardine, and I'm with K-State Research and Extension. My day job is I'm an extension plant pathologist. So I don't work in a traditional classroom like most of the faculty members here on campus are. My classroom is all over the state of Kansas. There's 105 counties in the state, and I've been in every one of them and taught in almost all of them. And so a lot of times we're in buildings at the 4-H fairgrounds, or we're in courthouse meeting rooms or wherever. So it's a very non-traditional type of classroom. I first got introduced to clickers a couple of years ago. I was at a meeting with some of my professional colleagues, and actually one of my colleagues from the University of Missouri, she just demonstrated to us how she was using them over in Missouri, and I thought, wow, this is like so cool. And didn't have a set of clickers at the time, but about a year or so ago, through some grant funds that we had available, we were able to purchase a set. So I actually have 100 clickers available to me. Although I find that in the settings I'm in, for crowds of 50 or more, they can be a little awkward getting them all passed out and getting them all collected. So if I have a very large crowd, sometimes I'll choose not to use them. But they work great for groups of 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, and they're really wonderful. So let me go ahead. There's 3 primary ways that I'm using them. There we go. I use them for pre and post testing. I use them for adoption of practices surveys. And then I just dabbled a little bit in using them to gather information that might be useful to me for my program planning. And the impact reporting is very important, whether it's a grant or for your own personal evaluation or other things. The administrators always want to know, well, yeah, you're out there, you say you're doing a good job, but how do I know that you're actually making an impact out there? And in the type of work I'm in, sometimes it may take 10 or 15 years to see a measurable impact, but yet using these clickers, it allows me to do that. And I'll show you then a couple of different ways. So the first is through pre and post testing for impact reporting. And this is just taken right out of one of the PowerPoints that I was using this year. And I'll translate this for you. It says the most common symptom of SCN is our acronym for soybean cyst nematode. It's a little roundworm that lives in the soil that just loves to feed on the roots of soybean plants, and it's very destructive, okay? So the most common symptom associated with, now remember, I'm asking farmers or maybe agriculture consultants, so I ask them, it's severe stunting in localized areas of the field, yellowing in localized areas of the field, or most infested fields show no symptoms at all. So this was the pretest, and you can see the results. So about a third of them said it was severe stunting, and about a quarter said it was yellowing, and the rest said there aren't any symptoms. Okay, so now I've got this fixed in my mind as I'm going into my presentation, how they responded to this. So here's a slide that I would use that addresses that particular question. So I'm showing them two slides here, and I talk about the field on the right that you can see there, that there's definitely some stunting present, and there's definitely yellowing present, but then I tell them that this is like a very extreme case of the disease. What they more typically see is this field over here. Most farmers would love to have that kind of field out on the highway for their neighbors to drive by because it looks so beautiful. The problem is this field is also infested with the soybean cyst nematode, and the farmer doesn't realize it. So it's real important for me to get across to them that most often there are no symptoms at all. So we try and impress upon that. Then we come back with the post-test. I ask them the exact same question again, and you can see in this case that the response improved from 44% to 77%, getting the correct answer. So now when I write my evaluation report at the end of the year, I can say that, you know, after my presentation, there was a 33% increase in the understanding of how to identify soybean cyst nematode, or something to that effect. And I've got hard data to back that up. So that's one really great way. And this was the first year that I wrote my evaluation report that way. And I was kind of proud of it because it was way better than any of the previous ones I've done. And I've been around for 26 years. So I also use it for adoption of practices surveys. So a lot of what I do falls under a category of integrated pest management. And that's kind of a holistic way of approaching disease management in plants, where you start with all of the non-chemical things that you can do first, and then if all of those fail, then chemicals would be the last resort, okay? So we call it integrated pest management, and in 1996, I did a survey, and this is the actual survey. So you can see I had the questions typed out. I had to pass the paper out with pencils to everybody in the audience, and I did this multiple times through the winter meeting season. And, you know, so that would eat up, you know, quite a bit of time out of my presentation. And then I'd have to collect them and take them back to my office. And honest to God, this is the actual tally sheet. Notice the coffee stains on it, okay? And so it wasn't particularly easy to do the survey. So I did that in 1996. So for 15 years, I'd been doing these presentations. I wanted to say, well, have we made any gains in the practices that are adopting, the best management practices that we're encouraging? So this year, or again, last winter, I did it, but I was able to put all of the questions into the Turning Point technology format, where I could ask yes or no, or multiple choice, or multiple answer questions. And this is just an example of one question that was on the original paper written survey. And so when available, do you use resistant hybrids or varieties to manage diseases? And 96% answered yes. Now I can tell you in the original one it was about 65%. So we've gained almost a third in people using this best management practice. And in fact, it's almost universally adopted now, okay? The other really cool thing that I like about the clicker system is it allows you to generate reports. Okay. We'll see if we can figure the feedback out. Within the PowerPoint program, there's a toolbar that you can use, and we don't have time to demonstrate it all today. But basically, by pointing and clicking, selecting some files, you can generate a report in Excel. And so this is the Excel report that was generated out of that integrated pest management survey. So that top question was the one that I showed you the clicker response from. And so it tells me that I had 54 total participants answer the question, and you see 52 of them selected the first answer, and only 2 selected the second. And again, there's the question underneath, do you use crop rotation to manage diseases? And 91% were, and that was quite a bit of improvement from 15 years ago. I also use it, sometimes I just want to gather some information on something that I have a particular interest in the year. So these are 2 questions that I'm using this year on my winter meeting tour. One of them is I use a seed treatment on my soybeans. And a seed treatment, it's a fungicide that is put on the seed prior to putting it into the ground to protect against early season diseases. And we highly recommend their use here in Kansas. And so I was wondering how many guys are actually following the recommendations. So at each meeting I've asked them, you can see I've had 74 people answer. And of the people that answered, about 18% use it all the time. 40% some of the time, 15% never, and in my audience, about 25% of the people just didn't grow soybeans, okay? So I can work back from that, and if you add the first 2 responses together and subtract the non-soybean growers, I can say that about 75% of the producers that attend my meetings use a soybean seed treatment all the time or part of the time, and that's really good, because 10 to 15 years ago, it was probably less than 15%. Okay. The other question I've asked him is I have used a foliar fungicide in at least 1 field, either corn or soybeans, in the past 2 years. And you can see that about 2/3 of them have not, which is good. We preach judicious use of fungicides, and we want them to use them only when they're absolutely necessary, although some of the chemical companies would like them to use them all the time, just routinely. And so we have this battle between the educators and the chemical industry. But to me, that's a good response, to know that 2/3 of them are not just using it non-judiciously. And then the last thing I use it for is information useful for program planning. And so last year we do in-service training for field agents. And as part of the in-service training, I asked them a bunch of demographic questions to try and get a picture of what our field staff looks like. And one of the questions I asked them is, what is your bachelor's degree in? And out of the 62 agents that took my little poll, almost half of them have degrees in animal science. And then you can see about 10% in agronomy and 10% in horticulture, and then 15% in ag education and 15% in ag economics. I then asked them another question, because they have multiple responsibilities in their county. Many of them do 4-H work or continuing education work. But I said, for agriculture issues only, what takes up the most amount of your time? And I gave them these choices. And you can see that half of them, or slightly more than half, say home horticulture problems takes up the largest issue or largest chunk of their time. And another third almost said it has in the area of crops and soils. So now I look at the stat and I go, we have a problem here. 50% of our people are trained in animal science, yet 50% of their time, 80% of their time is spent in the plant sciences areas. So that tells me that as I develop my in-service training for them, that we really need to hone in most importantly on home horticulture issues, and then to a lesser extent, crops and soil. So, we can use that now for our program planning. Just last thing, and I call this the hidden benefits of clickers, and I think it's been alluded to a little bit at a time. One is it keeps the audience engaged. I usually get the program right after lunch, because I'm fairly enthusiastic, and that's when guys are nodding off like this. But when they've got the clickers in their hand and you're asking them questions, it keeps them awake, it keeps them engaged, and that's really cool. And the other thing is they are absolutely fun. The interaction between the audience members when they're using the clickers, or between myself and the audience, is really great. I've had some questions where I've just beat them and beat them and beat them over the head so they would get the right answer on the post-test. And there's always that one person, anonymous of course, that doesn't get it right. And so I'll make some comment like, oh, they obviously just pushed the wrong button, or they must have fallen asleep during that part, and it'll get a chuckle out of the audience or whatever. So that's how I'm using them in my extension outreach program. I think we got 1 minute or 2 minutes if there's questions, or for Lauren or Sharolyn.
Curiosity. So you put up a question there, and you watch the responses come in, and 70% have answered, 72% have answered, 75% have answered. And everyone's watching you to decide how ruthless you're going to be as to when to cut the polling.
You're right, because I know how many clickers are out there, so I can watch the numbers roll and know if everybody has voted or not. And typically, I'll get 1 or 2 people that, for whatever reason, just are choosing not to answer that question. And I won't wait a long time. I'll watch. Usually the numbers go very fast at first, and then they gradually start to slow down. It'll get to be a point where they stop, and I'll say, okay, last chance. The poll's about to close. 3, 2, 1, and then I just close the poll. And so we're not forcing anybody to vote. We encourage it, but they may have a reason for not answering the question. I don't know. Maybe they're on their cell phone or texting under the table or something. But yeah, that happens. But I don't wait very long because you want to keep things moving along.
Can I add to that actually, really quick? Just to add to that. Thank you. I know a lot of instructors, because I work with a lot of colleges and universities, obviously, but a lot of instructors will say, okay, this is actually part of your participation grade. I'm sure, a lot of instructors out here have to be giving us, participation points. I know that was a big deal when I was in college. And even if they get the question wrong, say if it's a yes, no, or whatever kind of question it is, even if they respond, they're going to get something, part of their participation points. That's always the thing. And I wanted to ask you too, Doug, when you said that you do a countdown, do you actually say, okay, ready, 3, 2, 1, get your votes in?
Sometimes,
Okay,
yes.
because within our software, and actually within the PowerPoint integration as well as the Turning Point Anywhere software that I pulled with you guys today, we actually do have a countdown timer. So now Doug doesn't actually have to count down 3, 2, 1, blast off. So it makes it a lot easier, especially, even if you have 15 students in the class or 150, it doesn't matter. It makes it nice for them so they can say, okay, I got to get my butt going. I have to answer. So that was a good question though. Any other questions?